Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals. A few basic ground rules. If you've got a cell phone or electronic device, please put it on mute. If you are going to speak on an application, have any comments on an application, please step up to the microphone, give your name for the record, and please don't speak from the audience. If we close an application tonight, we will generally deliberate it on that application at the end of the hearing. You can stay for that. You cannot participate. We can't have audience commentary during the deliberation. We generally follow the agenda as posted on the door. Unfortunately, we had some scheduling conflicts, which forced us to amend the schedule, and those conflicts got resolved before this hearing started. So we are actually starting with calendar number 7, 2019 first, and then we will start back in with the regular sequence of calendars number 4, 5, and 6. If we do deliberate and make a decision and you do choose not to stay, you can always call Woody in the morning and he can give you an update as to what happened. With nothing further, unless I missed something.
I want to announce that we're covered by the local TV station.
Yeah, all of this is on Channel 79, and it is live, and I guess you could go home and watch as well. With all of that, we'll start with calendar number 7, 2019, the application of Chris No, 242 Old Kings Highway South.
My name is Chris No, 242 Old Kings Highway South. I've got a blight complaint by the town of Darien, and the number one thing on the list is my burned up back porch. It's been like that for 12 years, and I need your consideration to allow me to take down the burnt part and put it back. Basically the same way it is.
Okay,
That's
did you talk to staff? There were some deficiencies in your application.
I had also applied to subdivide the property, and I needed a new map, and I've got a guy working on that, but that won't be ready for 3 weeks. So,
Okay.
but that's not part of this evening. I mean, I'm anxious to get moving. I really don't want any delays. You won't get any delays from me, and I hope I don't.
Woody, have you seen the subdivision proposal?
Roughly.
Would it affect the setback areas that are called out in this notice?
No.
I don't know. Maybe. I
No.
think so.
It's a separate part of their property, and
The property is it's kind of shaped like a slice of pizza, and the house is stuck down the skinny end, the pointed end, and all the other piece would come off the end. So there's no, with what's going on to repair the fire damage is all existing stuff. It's been there for 24 years. It just needs to get rebuilt.
Yeah, so some of the things, some of the deficiencies that were noted, first and foremost was payment of the application fee. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I was ordered by the Blight Committee to file applications to all boards. And my last application I completed with the town of Darien, I forgot what it was. It might not have been you guys. Thinking on it back, I think it might have been EPC. But I worked on that application for a year. And, brought in new maps and everything that was required as you go through the application.
Right.
And at the end of it, they told me that I had a completed application, and they refused to make a decision, yes or no. And that's where it ended. So I kind of, that's why the place has kind of been sitting for years, because, when you get that kind of result from a year's worth of your time, it's really hard to come walking in here and start shelling out fees and having an open mind. But, I'm anxious to get this
I can't
thing.
speak to the other boards, but
I know.
that's not how we operate.
Oh, that's good.
We do make decisions.
That's good.
But the problem is, with the application that you've submitted, you've made it really tough for us to make decisions. So a lot of things we look at are elevations, designs, You know, I don't know how much staff has explained to you our process, but the first thing we have to find is a hardship on your property. And it has to be unique in nature to your property. Once we find that hardship, we have to look at what you're asking to build and see if that's the minimum adjustment necessary in order to grant the variance. And in this case, we've got some information. We've got a map with a redacted preparer, which is something that doesn't work for us, because the reason is we need to know who prepared it and who's standing behind the accuracy of that map.
I understand.
And so without a certified map, you know, it makes it hard for us to proceed. Without a set of elevations, it makes it hard for us to proceed, because we can't tell what you want to build. And we could say it's the exact same thing. Woody could tell you this. I think the rest of the board members could tell you this. We've had many applications who have come in and said, I want to build the exact same thing that's there. And then we get the plans for the building and it's completely different. So
I'm not
we
gonna
need
do that to you.
No, but we need to approve something, right? So we need to see those plans, we need to see what you want to build to approve that.
I get it.
And so without that, you've really made it hard for us to say, yeah, we would approve that, or no, we wouldn't, tonight. So what I would suggest, what I would think would be appropriate would be to continue your application, get you on the next regularly scheduled hearing,
Okay.
and work with Woody to fill in the gaps in the application. Further to that, what I would suggest, Woody, is we get something from town council as to, you know, where the application fee hasn't been paid. If we can actually go ahead and proceed with the hearings, I think the issue you're saying is, you've been ordered to come here, so why should you pay a fee? Is that?
You know, I don't have a problem paying the fees.
Okay.
But I haven't, but I explained it earlier.
Sure.
I've been ordered to come here.
Right.
Okay? The last time I went through this whole process, I was left with nothing.
Right.
Okay, so, it's all different people. Dave Keating isn't here anymore, or he's still in the building, but he's not here tonight. The bailout of the problem was that man, and so he's not here. He's part of this. So I think I have a better chance, perhaps. But you know, I like to use my time wisely.
Sure.
And if I've got a lot to do at the house. I mean, I've been working on it like crazy, trying to get things, better. There's a lot of years I just really didn't care, and I still don't, but I'm trying to do it just because it needs to get done.
Okay.
So, for the betterment of the neighborhood and the betterment of, some of the people around me, like a guy across the street who's trying to sell his house, I'm anxious to proceed as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Okay, so if I can get back here with the map for the subdivision, and I can get here with the, you just want a drawing, a construction drawing like
And we
that.
need construction drawings,
Yeah.
because that becomes part of the file, so if we approve it,
Okay,
that's what
this,
that's what the building office looks to say, did you comply with the variance that we granted?
These, if Woody if they keep records from previous applications, the porch was approved. I needed approvals by 3 boards, and I didn't get it by EPC. They wanted this giant easement, about 3/4 of my property, and I couldn't agree to that.
Okay.
And so the thing stalled, and, you have a limited amount of time before this permit goes dead, and that's what happened to me. So this board previously has approved this plan, and they had all the drawings, and they're probably in the file someplace. I might have them, but I kind of doubt it. I had a fire at my house, and everything's just kind of chaos.
Excuse me, Mr. No, I did find them in the previous
Did you?
ZBA file.
Okay.
So we can copy those and include them with your application materials and get ready. May 15 would be the board's next opportunity.
Okay.
Pick this up, and maybe by then you have your updated survey.
Okay, if, he was, that was a stretch that he could even have it done by then. I was gonna try to find some other contacts. But, okay, so if I can't.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? In this previous situation, were you asking for a subdivision too?
No,
So are we gonna deal with one thing at a time?
I think they're both.
Subdivision won't come to us.
Well, in this case, it
But any
looks like
setback
it
issue.
will because of the lot area
Yeah.
and lot
Well,
depth.
that's what I asked, if the subdivision impacts this.
It does.
It does, okay.
Well, it
I was
definitely
told
reduces
no.
the size
well,
of
the,
property.
I don't think it was by
What-
the applicant.
what happens is the lot that the existing house will be sitting on is less than a third. It's, instead of .33, it's .29, so it's just a little bit less. But it's, I'm up against open space, and I don't know,
So you'd be creating a you have a conforming lot in size, and you'd be creating a non-conforming lot.
I would have, right, that's correct.
I
It
don't
would be
think
a
we have,
smaller lot.
I don't think we have the power to,
We don't grant subdivisions.
yeah, so a
That's a
subdivision
different board.
application would go through,
Well, it has to go to P and Z, but apparently it had to go to you guys first. That's what
So
that's what
we
Jeremy
would
told
just
me.
do the house part, the lot that your house is on. That's the thing that we would be concerned with.
Right, well, it's on the map. The house is 880 square feet. I mean, the house is very small. With this back porch, if it's, I could put that back on, the house would be 1,000 square feet. It's very, very small. So when you have a quarter-acre lot, there's still tons of land. I mean, it's not crowded in any way. It's really not.
so a couple other things. There were noted, I don't know if you saw the staff notes, but there were noted in the staff notes a couple of non-permitted, non-conforming structures, as well as some blight issues.
Yeah, the blight, that's what I'm working on.
If we were to grant your variance request with stipulations to cure those issues, is that something you'd be comfortable with?
Yeah, I want to resolve everything.
Good.
I mean, but you guys, I mean, I guess we're not making those decisions tonight. but-
No, we're not. In the subdivision, Woody, I'd like to get, I'm not even sure we can grant a variance to create a subdivision. I don't think we can. So I have two questions for town council.
Sure.
One is can we do that? And that would save you a lot of time, money, energy, right? If we can't do it, then there's no point in you bringing it back to us. And the other is whether we can rule on an application where there are these violations that are currently existing. I understand that Mr. No was sent here by the Blight Board to resolve some of this, so maybe that solves it. But
See, my question relating to subdivision is, well, if there's a subdivision application, shouldn't P and Z hear that first, so we know the lot that we're reviewing for the proposed variance?
right, correct.
So I think that goes first, I don't know why it
Yeah.
goes
Well,
second.
Jeremy said it went the other
So
way.
Someone needs to tell us why.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're-
I
we're-
appreciate that he told you that, but I need
Right.
someone needs to tell us.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't want to waste a lot of your time and energy running around trying to get something that can't be approved, right? So,
I get that.
yep.
You also wanted to ask council about the fee, whether we can
And the council about the
actually
fee,
waive that
whether-
or not.
yeah, and I think that there's an argument where he's sent here by the Blight Board, that the fee might be waived in that situation where another board is requiring that he come here. I'm not sure if that's the case, that's why I want town council's opinion. So I've got three items for council to give us some guidance on. And I don't know, let me ask you, just to further complicate the issue, does he have to come to the public hearing and present that, or can he just do a memo to the file?
No, I think we can resolve those several questions with council
Okay,
before we proceed, and May 15 again would be May 15's the.
Okay, so I'm going to try to get everything together for May 15.
wait until we hear
Okay.
from town council on the
Right.
subdivision.
Right.
Because if you can't, I mean, surveyors cost money, right? So if
Oh, yeah.
you spend the money on a survey that you can't use,
Right.
it's a waste of money. So let's resolve that as quickly as
He
possible.
would still need an updated survey even to present to P and Z, so
Correct,
you might as well
yes.
proceed with that. That's a valuable
Well,
document.
I think, you know, what Jeremy told me is it had to be here first. So I'm going to kind of keep going on that, but you might,
Yeah, I
you
think
guys are
it's-
going to check it out, and might hear something different, but, okay, so I'm going to try to get you, basically, I just need the.
Plans in a survey
Okay,
for
Woody-
this
Woody-
application.
Woody says he has the drawings on file.
Yep,
Okay, so if I can borrow a set of those,
Yeah,
I'll
if they're
get.
the same as you presented in
It's exactly, yeah,
1996.
it's the same.
Perfect.
I mean, I'd love to change it, but it just, there's one end of the building that got fire damage, so there's just, you don't have to rebuild the whole thing, it's just the fire, it was December 8th, the fire department was selling Christmas trees up at the Monroe Heights Fire Department, they were at the house in 2 seconds and put it out. Guys are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, but there was substantial damage, and I was able to fix the house, but.
Okay.
But hey, thank you for your,
Thanks for coming out tonight.
thank you.
Appreciate it. So, Woody, we're going to continue that till the May 15th hearing. Okay. Sorry. Before I continue that, was there anyone from the audience that wanted to be heard on that application? Okay, good. Thank God.
Sure.
No, someone
Oh,
does.
we do. Yes, please come forward. Or do we-
Just thought it's probably best to wait until the next hearing.
That's, yeah, especially since Mr. Noah's left and may not be able to answer your questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry.
Can't get them all right.
No, that was my fault.
Okay, back to the beginning of our agenda, calendar number 4, 2019, PB Architects for 30 Fairmead Road.
Good evening. My name is Jacek Bigoshinsky, PB Architects. With me is Jean Strebels-Heidel and her partner, Aaron Stein, and some 2 lovely kids reading books, not because they're bored. Real books. Anyway, so here's my presentation. I'm sorry I could cover this up. Okay, so what we have is a existing lot that's legally non-conforming. The lot is undersized. It's 17,929 square feet in lieu of 43,560. So it's almost half the size. It's a narrow lot with 3 40-foot yard setbacks and 125. The existing house is mostly over the required setback lines. And you can see it here highlighted in yellow. That's where the existing house is. It's still there. Though, eventually we hope if this gets approved, it's going to come down. But you can see how it actually extends over the setback lines. The red lines here, you can see this is the building envelope with the setbacks as required. So the proposed house is actually totally within setback lines, okay? All the living spaces are within the setback lines. What we are asking for in terms of the variance is a wood deck, which you can see here, and it's magenta, and there is a walkway. Part of the challenge with this lot is the fact that it just literally drops off. It's like a cliff. And so there's really no living space. Because the house, the new proposed house is actually moved back, further back on the lot, because of this 40-foot setback here. That basically puts the living space outside of the family room on the steep part of the land. And this is where we are proposing the deck, and that's really the main reason we're here. That's sort of in a nutshell. The deck is, by the way, if you're not familiar with the neighborhood here, these are all solid woods here. This is all town property. So where the deck is, it's actually right up against the select wood, so it doesn't really impact anybody. In terms of volume, obviously the deck is right on at the ground level. And in terms of coverage, we meet the coverage requirements, we meet the height requirements.
What is
So
the coverage asset, do you know?
It's
The proposed coverage?
13.8.
13.8.
What do you, imagine a flat piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
If he built a patio, he could build a patio outside the buildable area
Right,
on the ground, right?
right.
And if it were a flat piece of property, you could put a deck so long as it's 6 inches or a foot.
Not more than a foot,
A foot.
right.
So it's really, the reason that you're here for that variance, other than the lot size,
Right.
is because of
Configuration
the
of the land.
configuration of the land.
Yeah,
The very
steepness.
steep drop-off that's there.
Right, correct. That's really the main reason. And,
Okay.
you know, we put the house where we could, within the setback lines, but we were left with basically no outdoor space, available, because where you step outside, you have pretty much like a 8-foot drop.
So we have a lot width issue, but you're all within the buildable area, and the setback is purely related to the deck.
Yeah, it's all deck, all the finished
The rear
space.
yard setback is
Right,
purely
the house, all the finished spaces, the inside of the house are within the setback lines.
And Jacek, the proposed structure is more conforming than the existing.
Correct. Yes, because you can see with the yellow outline here of the existing house, that existing house comes in as close as 19.9 feet in lieu of 40, and 25.2 in lieu of 40. And then again, 19.8 in lieu of 25. So we have eliminated that by situating the house right within the building envelope.
And if you hadn't done that, if you'd kept the house where it was, you could have put a deck, it would have worked better.
Well, yes, actually, we wouldn't even need a deck. We probably could have a patio at that
Yes.
point, right, which would not require variance. I would still have to come here for a variance probably to go up.
Right.
But that obviously
You'd be putting
is-
volume inside, you'd be
Exactly.
putting additional volume in an area where you
Right.
would not be allowed
Outside
to
of
do
the,
it.
yeah.
Right, here, everything's inside the buildable area except for the deck,
Right.
which is
And that's no volume
impacted by
really.
by that steep drop-off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see no problem.
I mean, unless we just deny a deck, yeah, right? I mean, the yard is tricky I went down to look at the space. I mean, the hardship is the property, right?
Yeah.
Is that what
It
we're
is the shape
arguing?
of the land.
Yeah, and looking for a flat space for
Right.
outdoor
For outdoor,
activity,
exactly.
which I think is, it's more generic outdoor activity than maybe an application we're going to be hearing later tonight.
Right, true.
Did you, Yasik, did you see this staff notes on the possible area for a patio?
To the right side of the property versus,
Off the mudroom
Possible,
patio area?
of the mudroom?
Yeah. Did you explore that at all?
Well, yes, but, wouldn't that be a little bit awkward, to go outside to a outdoor space through mudroom, right? I think you want the living space connected to it, and where the kitchen is located, if you look at the plan, the kitchen here and the open space is right here, because in front, I should also add that, we are placing two-car garage within the buildable area. The house currently doesn't have a garage that's, within the setback line. So that obviously is another, conforming use. And that pushes all the living spaces further back. And so, again, the only place where I can have a deck or living outdoor space is by the living room, right, which is further back. If the garage was, under the house, maybe, but, we thought about it, but it's really hard to get in. Driving in here on the side and trying to make a turn to get under the house, that'd be very difficult.
and the AC units, it looks like on our drawing, they are
They're actually
within.
within setback lines,
Okay.
yes.
And that would be in the area where that patio
Right.
would have gone, so
Right.
makes it a less functional area. Yeah, I think this is a unique site.
Certainly, yes.
I think that getting the two off-street parking within the building setback is a positive movement, and reducing the nonconformity, although the deck, I guess there's an argument that the deck increases the nonconformity. The deck would be as of right without this property slope.
Right.
And assuming there's no
If
way
it were
to,
flat, you
Right.
could put
If it was flat, yeah, I wouldn't have to.
1 foot off the
right.
ground. Right.
And the stone patio, if it's more than 4 feet off the ground, it
Right.
counts as a structure. So, in that case, again, even if
Got
I
it.
had, we thought about it, stepping it down somehow, but that wouldn't be much of a patio, it would be just basically steps.
And there's no neighbor issues because we're talking about Selleck Woods on that
Right.
side, so.
Exactly, there's no
Okay.
neighbor here, and there's no neighbor here, there's a neighbor here, and there's a neighbor here. My clients did talk to the neighbors, I don't know if there's anybody here to talk. Okay, well, you can come up in a second. So, everybody is really for it.
Okay, I have nothing further. Anyone else on the board have anything further? Woody, do you have anything further?
Well, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard on this application?
Hi, I'm Jan. I was just sent an email from one of the neighbors. I don't know if I just submitted it, but it's from Christina.
Tina.
Tina.
So she's in support. I just haven't submitted
So
that.
what we do is we add this to the record.
There you go.
I'm sorry, we need your full name for the
Sorry,
record.
Jan Siddell Strebel,
You got it?
The owner.
the owner.
I'm another neighbor.
Please step forward to the microphone.
I'm Manohar Pasmarthi. I live in 34 Fairmead, and I'm in support with the plan. So,
Could you say your name again, please?
Manohar Pasmarthi.
Could you spell it?
Okay. Last name Pasumarti. First name is Manohar. Manohar.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Thanks for coming out this evening. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this application? Seeing no one, anything further from the applicant?
No, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and close this application.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is calendar number 5, 2019, Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones for 20 Raymond Street. And
Hi.
I believe we've seen this application previously.
Yes, I recognize some of the faces. I'm Stephen Jones. I reside at 71 Relihan Road, and I'm the lead project guy. Tonight, we're looking for a reapproval of an approval that we got back in November 16 of 2016. And the reason that we need that reapproval is that the existing approval and extensions expired, and we haven't got sufficient construction underway based on zoning's assessment. And also, there are 2 new neighbors that have come into the neighborhood. Hence, we're here today to run it by you again.
Can you explain what happened in the construction process? We spent a lot of time and energy on this application, as you'll recall, numerous
Yeah.
site visits, trying to figure out height of structures and what this thing would look like.
Height of steps
and
and flood
I mean,
levels,
this is
and
a-
it went on and on
Yeah,
for
so
5 months.
Yeah, and then to let that lapse, obviously is concerning to this board, because we spend that time and we give you your client their approval, and we assume that they're going to, diligently pursue it. We had a couple of extensions of that time frame, and then it seems like the project lay fallow for so long, Woody, that it came back to us for another extension, and we felt like it had too much time had passed and not enough had been done on the project. Is that a fair?
No, they didn't ask for an additional extension.
Oh, they
but
did not.
The last
Okay.
one the ZBA provided, you basically said, this is the last one, it really has to go, or we need a new hearing, to be fair. So that's more or less what
Okay.
happened. And they had trouble with.
So can you just give us a little idea as to why we're back here?
That's a fair question, and believe me, we've been busy and we've been trying, and nobody wants to get into their house sooner than my client. There really are 4 things that happened. One is the approval process itself. The first ZBA approval had expired before we even got our last regulatory approval. So by the time, we got through just the basic regulatory process, we'd already expired on the first ZBA approval.
Does that mean like EPC
And zoning commission,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And in fact, the last zoning commission approval was May of last year. And that was and we had to relocate and re-engineer the retaining wall for the road and for the foundation. And with that, there was a certain amount of time there, but it also involved all kinds of other new surveys, new engineering. Landscape plan had to be approved. We had to go through the DPW, which we didn't get through until the end of August. That took 5 weeks with the civil engineer to get the guide rail solution, both temporary and permanent, resolved. There were numerous other requirements with the police, with parking, with bonds, with insurance, with survey elevations. Just the list went on and on. So by the end of August, beginning of September, we were ready to apply for the permit, which we got from zoning the middle of October of 2018. So that was our first chance to start working on the lot. And we started working on the lot, and the next thing that happened was the contractor came in with a new bid at 36% over the original bid, which was over $500,000 increase. And we tried to negotiate that down, and they weren't interested. So we had to put together a new construction team, which we did at the end of October. And we got our building permit, but what happened there, we got dragged out on opening the lot, the street opening. Took us 3 weeks to get through the DPW to get permission and get a railing in place for access to the property. And then, because the original contractor abandoned it, we had to come in with a new contractor, finish clearing the lot, regrade it, put all new soil and erosion controls in, new access, fix the guide rail, all that stuff. And it took us to the end of November, at which time we did offer an extension letter to Jeremy, and we have a record of that. But he recommended that rather than test your patience, just get the job done. So that was what we tried to do, but the weather didn't cooperate. We had the wettest fall and early winter on record in Connecticut. And it's a very complicated process where we need 3 weeks of clear weather to excavate and pin to the ledge rock. We can't have freeze, thaw, pouring rain. The really high levels of the river have never been so high, consistently so high. So we were snookered in terms of moving forward, and then with January and February, the freeze thaw was preventing us from moving forward as well. So we were ready to move forward about a month ago. But at that time, we got a notice saying that the permit had been retracted, both zoning and building departments, and we were going to have to reapply for the ZBA.
All right, so that's super helpful.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, it was, it was re-engineering, it was protracted process, it was the weather issues, and they all just...
And I hadn't thought of the fact that the unique nature of the site requires very specific time frame within which you can work on it, so.
Yeah, and some of these things we didn't know as we went into the process. It was the, engineers and contractors that told us that we can't work in this weather. And we were just like, but we have a deadline.
Are we prepared at this point, though?
Yes.
If we move forward with this application?
We have the service mass, yes. Everything is ready to go.
Okay.
And we have survey people waiting on putting the stakes in.
Okay.
As soon as that, we get the green light, they're going to put the stakes in for the foundation. All the contractors are anxious to go.
And just so the record is clear, nothing's happened in the interim. There's been no buying or selling or change of the lot lines.
Yeah.
So the lot is exactly the same.
Yeah, the design.
I wasn't on the hearing when it was approved, I don't think. The building plans are exactly the same.
Yes, the only change went through the zoning commission, and that was moving the foundation wall forward. And that, required the HEC-RAS engineering model and slope analysis.
Does that change the setbacks that
No.
you're asking for in this application? So this
No.
application and the variances down to the measurements are exactly the same as
Right.
what this board approved?
Even, we weren't sure, but they just did the survey calculations, and even the height is the same.
Okay. Woody, can we bring in the findings of the prior application on the hardship of the site and the
I think we have to reestablish it because it's a new application. That was,
Well, you could certainly incorporate the previous file. Now, that file actually has a peer consultant review and lots
It's a
of
pretty,
Oh, I remember.
information.
it's a really good thing to do because it's got a lot of evidence in there. So if anyone challenges the findings on this, it's good to have the other one
That's
part of the
fine.
record.
That's fine. But I think we still need to separately establish.
That's a model of the house?
Yes, I could put that on the.
Yeah, so sorry, we sort of hijacked your application a little bit there. We were just trying to get a sense of what, you know, what the history is here, so please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, the other part of this is there were a bunch of conditions of the prior approval,
Right.
stipulations, which you might want to confirm that they're willing to abide by without difficulty. And they included some significant landscape tree planting.
Okay.
Which we spent part of last summer with Woody getting that put together and put to bed.
So the answer is yes, you
Yes.
would? Okay.
We have an official landscape plan that's tentatively approved by zoning.
Does that address erosion control?
That's a separate plan, actually. It's part of maybe the rain garden, but it doesn't really address erosion controls. I mean, there's erosion controls during the construction process, which are in place now. And then there's a rain garden for filtering under normal conditions. But under storm conditions, that's potentially all underwater. So that rain garden filters water from the driveway runoff and the roof runoff.
So I wasn't on the first application. I assume all of that is part of that, or they would have to resubmit.
So generally, things like that are planning and zoning issues.
Okay.
Or EPC issues. We're really the meets and bounds of the property, and the setbacks, and in this case, the height of the structure.
Okay.
But they are required by planning and zoning to maintain their runoff as part of their application to planning and zoning.
We had to file with the land board here, we had to file a maintenance plan for gutters and things like that. So, and file a special permit. So that has all been done, paid for. But we did, a lot of things that might have been covered by the ZBA, because there were so many different boards involved, we did sort of cut it up and divide it between the different boards. And EPC really got into details on drainage, environment, coastal impact, flood impact, all that. And then again, the zoning commission covered a lot of that too.
So can you just briefly go through sort of your hardship and the nature of the project, and just sort of give us the bright line? We are going to include the previous record for purposes of including any information that was contained in there, including peer review documents. But if you could just give us sort of a review of that.
All right, well, the variances we're looking for, it's under section 385. We have a mainland area that's 6,778 square feet versus 8,712 for a fifth acre zoning. The lot itself is over a third of an acre, but part of what this board determined was that we were going to treat the mainland as really as the property and not take the island into account. So the mainland area is legally non-conforming lot area, and it's only 65 feet deep versus 100 feet deep. And the 100 feet is the lot depth that's normally required. The front yard setback is 14.4 feet versus 25 feet. And because we have a substandard width road, we have 29 feet versus 50 feet from the center line of the road for the front setback. In the rear, we have 12 feet versus 25 feet. And that rear takes you right to the water line. And then for building height, we have 39.4 feet versus 30-foot max. And then, and those were all under section 406. And under section 906.3, we have a portion of the off-street parking that's in the front yard setback. Mainly because Mainly because the buildable area of this home is, and here's the front yard setback, is right in here. And one of the requirements, when you're building in an AE flood zone like this with FEMA and DEEP, is that you push the structure as far away from the floodway as you can. So we basically decided that we located it as close to the road that you could safely park and back out. And that became the determining factor as to how far back the house had to be.
Where was the original house located on this
There's
property?
no,
There was never a
Never
house
been.
built here.
no,
It's been one of the more daunting properties in.
no one's been brave enough to
And
build on
it,
it.
yeah, and they had paid their taxes up, and it was subdivided this way in '64. And all the lots on either side were built up, developed, but not this one.
Can you show me where the 39.33 feet is on the roof line, just so I can get a sense? And maybe, I think we're looking from the river towards the house, maybe if we could get it turned around and see a street view. I'm just trying to get a sense of,
So here's a street view of the house. And the mean roof height, which is what they use for the
Yeah.
roof height, is right here.
yeah,
What we did do is we looked at the neighbors' houses and we had to calculate the roof heights of those
yeah.
based on the perception from the street. So this is conforming with most, it's not taller than the neighbors' houses. So, and that was one of
Is that
the-
your only justification for that variance? Is it a?
No, we were getting pushed up by the 100-year flood level of 12.4, needing to clear it. The base of this house has a 5.5-foot deep substructure, and we need a clearance for debris, is what they want in the AE river zone, where you have fast-flowing water. If a tree or even a small house or something comes down the river, we not only have to take the impact, but they want it to try and clear underneath the house, because we're cantilevered over the floodway.
And as I recall from your previous application, you actually had requested a higher structure. We brought you
Yes.
down dramatically through some engineering, and I can't remember if it was just the engineering or if we
It was a
reduced the
combination
total height.
of being similar to the other houses on the street, so it was sort of matching the neighbors. It was a combination of how steep we were going to make the driveway. We needed one step up in the garage to get into the house. So
If this were on a flat piece of property, if you didn't have the calculation of the land dropping off behind,
it would be well under the
it would be well
30-foot
under.
max, yes.
Okay, so it's really a factor, it's a function, that's the right word, of the land dropping off
Yes,
as you move behind.
the geography of the
towards
land
next
with that 16-foot drop. I heard Yassick say they had a 8-foot drop. Well, we have
Ah, you had
a
to do a-
16-foot drop.
We actually, when this was proposed the last time, we actually had them put flags at the peak height of the roof to sort of demonstrate what that would look like in relation to the neighbors, and that was very, very helpful.
Oh, it was.
Okay, I think if we're incorporating the record from your previous application, I'm satisfied unless you need to hear more.
Yeah, so I wasn't on that, so thank you for answering the questions that you probably answered previously.
A bunch of times.
Yeah, we're getting good at it.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board?
I think the only question is the neighbor's letter that we have to look into.
Yeah, I think we're gonna hear probably from some neighbors, so let's wait until the end, we'll go through the neighbors. Woody, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Okay. If it's okay with you, maybe we'll open it up to neighbor comment and,
No, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Shall I stay up here in case they?
yeah, in case there's questions that need to be answered. Are there any neighbors who wish to be heard on this application?
Huh?
This is really strange, I actually live across the street.
Okay.
And the fact that
You're double duty here
I'm here
tonight.
for something else entirely.
I actually have the person who lives directly across.
I'm sorry, you have to come up if you want to comment.
I don't live directly across, she really does. I'm at 23 Raven Street.
And your name for the record again, I'm sorry.
Jan Sedell-Strebel.
And your name for the record?
I'm Meredith Ray Gallagher. I'm at 18 Raymond Heights, so I'm the property that did the modular home a few years back. And I'm virtually the house above where this property is, but on the Raymond Street, Raymond Heights border.
So do you have comments about this proposal, this application?
I personally just think that I have nothing bad to say. I'm in support of the fact that they develop this. I think any concern is that it's on a curve, and so the only thing is to do with parking and congestion, because it's a small street. And so having watched the one, I don't remember the address, it's up there, Dan. Two up, like
24 and 26.
Oh, yeah.
Watching now, so I lived on Tulip Tree and I used to run by it. Sorry.
That's okay.
I lived on Tulip Tree and I used to run by it all the time. And so I saw the congestion on the street and I didn't even live there. So I'm just saying, so long as it's thoughtful for how to park vehicles on that part is my only concern. I'm in support of the.
So Stephen, can you address that a little bit? We've done, I don't know if you've done a few projects. I think you've done a few projects in this neighborhood, or we've seen a few applications between Raymond Heights and this area. And obviously in these confined neighborhoods, and maybe this was addressed by planning and zoning, we generally don't get into the mechanics of this. Is there a proposal? Is there a plan? Is it I mean, you know, off-site parking for construction vehicles?
There is.
You know, bringing.
That was one of the stipulations, and you know, we really did have to go above and beyond. The homeowner client has leased extra parking spaces for the contractors from local businesses, and that had to go in front of the Darien Police Department traffic and get approved by them, and then it went to the DPW to get approved by them before they would issue a street opening permit for us.
Okay, and those have been secured and will continue to be secured for this project. You have stockpiling areas, staging areas for materials and things like that?
Yes, so it's tight, and we have to keep it out of the floodway. So we have to, it's a complicated process, but we've had to go through all of that with the zoning commission and with the DPW as well.
Okay.
So we're adjusting it, and the irony is that that lot has been used as the contractor parking lot for years for all of the remodels and new houses on the street because it wasn't occupied.
No, that's not true.
So do you
No,
wanna-
that's definitely not true.
If you wanna-
I don't
sorry.
mean to oppose you, but that's.
Ma'am, if you want to speak, you have to
All
come
right,
to the
so I'm
mic.
married to Ray Gallagher, so that's the narrowest part of the road. You actually can't park there.
Okay, but
So
I'm
if
saying
there's
that.
a car there, so everyone's done like a tie-up, would they really park with that?
Meredith, if you could step up to the.
So, okay, so historically though, the house next to me,
Ms. Gallagher?
14 Raymond Street.
You have
Hold
to
on.
address the microphone on
Sorry.
the board.
And also
So-
talk to the board.
Yeah,
14, so I've lived in the neighborhood the longest. So 14 Raymond Street used to have an open access point between Heights and Street. And that went under construction at the same time as me, and that access point got closed and made into a driveway on the Raymond Heights side. But historically, when projects were happening, people parked there and in that driveway. But where this house is going is a very narrow turning point in the road. You actually cannot put a car in this part of the road and safely get around without hitting somebody.
so let me ask you a question. Do you have comments on the proposed project?
I actually am fine with it. I've watched it from afar, and this is the first time I've come to one of the meetings. I think my only concern is the financial aspect of it. The first time a price popped, it became a problem, and I think anyone who has built knows the price is going to pop as you are building. So I think that's my only step back, is this project going to get completed? And that would be my only concern. The reality is it's a beautiful house, and I think it's an interesting prospect and project. It'll be fun to watch from my yard, but the road is a scary, scary point. I think there's going to be a car accident. It's just a very tight turn.
You think there's going to be a car accident because someone's exiting that property, or you think just because
I
of
think
during construction? Or
I think logistically, between buses trying to get through, that is a bus route for kindergartners,
Right.
between, just back and forth traffic. The reality is that little niche of land, that Raymond Heights curve, probably should be a one-way road. I mean, because between that curve and the next curve, you're constantly dodging each other.
Okay.
So
This
it's,
is something we had to cover with the police department
Yep.
because they did get neighbors' concerns. I do have photographs of that street just packed with construction vehicles that were for 20 24 and 26 in the last 2 years, and a school bus going by as well.
Okay.
And one was an 8-foot wide trailer that was parked on the side, and the school bus driver went by. So my only contrapoint was that, you know, if there's an occasional truck there or something, it shouldn't be like, you know, 5-alarm issue. There could be times when someone needs to stop and drop something off or check on something.
Right, and so far it's gone well. So far, they've had dump trucks and they've pulled all the trees out, it's gone fine. That hasn't been an issue, we've watched it and it's fine, but it's just a tricky part of the road, period. I think for the new owner pulling out, I think for anybody, it's a tricky part of the road.
Okay. And you've gone over sightlines with DPW and all that sort of stuff, so there's sufficient sightlines to...
Yeah, and even the landscaping plan had to be
Egress.
built around that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, sorry, there is, in the file, there is a neighbor letter, 17 Raymond Street. Did you see this letter? It's a handwritten note. Do you want to pass that around? I mean, it's hard to get a note in the file without having someone attend. Woody, did you encourage them to attend? Did they?
Well, the person called and said they weren't able to be here, but they wanted to provide something, and that was the option.
Did they ask for any additional time, or?
I believe, I'm not sure.
So this is
They
a.
definitely did not ask for additional time.
They did not, okay. This is a note from Jeannie Brown, and basically, it says that, it basically says that there really should be no house built on this lot. And I don't think that that's within the purview of our board. You've proposed sensible development. The only thing, the height variance, is concerning. But I think this is such a unique lot with the topography and the slope and the floodplain and the trussing requirements that you have that all were explained previously to justify the need for that additional height. I think you've made a compelling case there. So if there's no one further that wants to be heard in the audience, we'll go ahead.
Well, last question.
Sure, go ahead.
One of the concerns they have here is the size of the house. And I think someone asked the question, is the proposed size is the same as it was granted before?
Yes, and in fact,
The
during
size
the
hasn't
process, it was a bigger house.
Okay.
And through negotiations and working through the board, it actually got whittled down and one bedroom got taken off until we got it down to that fairly small footprint.
What is the footprint?
In terms of the coverage, or?
Yeah, coverage-wise.
I'm not sure. I don't have the zoning data right in front of me, but it's well under the 20%.
It was a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and now it's a
It's,
3-bedroom,
yeah,
3-bath proposal.
17%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's better than what we had granted before,
Yes.
from a size point of view.
Yeah.
They're no different. It's
No,
exactly
it's
the same.
That's
This is what they
the same.
granted,
It's-
yeah.
It had improved under pressure. We
During the
made it
application
as small as we
process.
felt we could.
It's improved from the original application, and it's the same as what we approved previously.
Yeah.
The island issue, I guess, is another thing worth noting. We did not allow you to count that towards
No.
coverage.
Well, but I think we allowed it in coverage, but not in setbacks.
Not in setbacks,
I think
okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why we don't have a coverage variance, because we have a fairly large lot.
Yeah,
So,
it's a
Okay.
lot.
their property. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and close that application. We are on to calendar number 6, 2019, the application of Wilder Gleason. We'll give them a minute to clear the room. Good evening. This is for
I never,
1 Tokenique Beach Drive.
I'm sorry, but they
Yep.
need to
I can close the door.
Can we, yeah,
Mind closing the door, just like,
thank you.
kind of stopper gizmo.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that. Is that could be enough, Judy?
Thank you.
Yes? Okay.
Thank you. Wilder Gleason, Gleason and Associates. I'm here with John and Catherine Mancini, who are contract purchasers of the Castle property, which we worked with you earlier this year in January, calendar 1, 2019, and that house is under construction. The foundation's been poured, and we're about to get building permits to frame the house. And the Castellos decided that they were not interested in living here going forward, and they found an old classmate who lives in town. And John and Catherine and their family of 4 boys, I think it is, yeah, would like to move from their current place in Darien to this house, but they want to modify the house to meet the needs of their larger family. And so they would like to build a 5th bedroom within the approved building envelope. The plans you approved earlier this year in calendar 1, 2019 included a 2-story living room. They would make that a 1-story living room and add the 5th bedroom and bathroom. And the plans you approved earlier for the Castellos had a 1-story 3-car garage with 4 rambunctious boys. They would like to have a bonus room, essentially a place for the guys to go play, which would be a 2nd story over the existing approved garages. And as a result of this increase in habitable space, they need 1 additional HVAC unit.
Wilder, you present an interesting problem. I wasn't here, right, Woody, on the prior application. I think so. Which we agreed was the minimal adjustment necessary to, the board must have come to the conclusion there was a minimal adjustment necessary to address the hardship. Now you're going above what we granted as the minimal adjustment necessary.
We're not
to
changing
address-
any of the setbacks. What we're doing
No,
is
but
adding
you're-
building envelope,
You're adding volume,
yeah.
which is increasing the nonconformity. You and I can have that argument all night. We
Right.
probably have for 14 years. But we win on that. You're increasing the nonconformity by increasing the volume.
So if we had come, now, the prior house that was there before the Castellos got their approval had a 2-story structure above the garage, and it had an illegal apartment. And that had been approved previously, not the apartment, but the habitable space. So we're essentially creating a 2nd story where 1 existed previously.
But the problem is, the board just 3 months ago approved something, and it made a determination about the minimal adjustment. I mean, it has to, right? That was it. Now you're asking for more than that. In my mind, it's a problem.
Okay.
And
So the hardship remains the same that we
That
had
I-
before.
right.
We have all these other, and what you're then saying is essentially, you would be saying we would be fixed with this house as a 4-bedroom house forever, unless we can see a change.
Right, unless, so then you're a new applicant, you're coming here and you say, something's changed. The zoning law, rules have changed between the time it was built as a 4-bedroom and not a 5-bedroom. What's changed between January and today, other than the ownership? And their personal desires to do something different with this house than the prior applicants?
What has changed is that
Let me ask you a question. Did you have an approved 5-bedroom septic in the previous application?
the septic that we have is approved for 5 bedrooms, so the septic would accommodate a 5-bedroom house.
But is that the same design that you had previously?
There's no change in the septic fields.
The only change to accommodate a 5-bedroom septic is that we have to install a bigger septic tank, which is underground, and we have to install a bigger retention tank for the effluent to be pumped into the septic fields. We're not changing septic fields at all, and that approval is part of the record, I believe.
Let me ask you a question. If this building had already been built,
Yep.
according to the variance that we provided in January of 2019, and you have a new client, a contract purchaser, what would you argue to us to justify increasing the nonconformity? If
That-
it was built?
That, that you would have granted that same variance had it been proposed initially.
But you can't do that because what we granted was the minimal adjustment necessary. Now you're asking for more. So that's what makes that argument, I think, fall flat. Because we're only allowed to give you the minimal adjustment necessary. Statutorily, that's all we're empowered to do. And that's all we did
Well,
at
then
the prior
what happens
application.
on the logic that you have is that someone, if you have a house like this, which was, you can never increase it.
Well,
I mean, that
you know
logic-
nothing against our real estate broker colleagues. We know a lot of brokers used to say to a customer, I know it's only 3 or 4 bedrooms, but you can get a variance and get something more. What's the basis for that?
The basis is the hardship.
Sometimes houses are stuck with the way they are because there's no hardship to justify an increased nonconforming use. And that's what you're asking us to do. You're asking us to essentially increase the nonconforming use that was approved just 4 months ago. And the only thing that's changed is the owner of the house. Not yet, sorry, contract
Not yet,
owner of the
yeah.
house.
I believe there is, that the nature of, I believe that you have lots of hardships in that it is almost confiscatory the way it's granted now. So here's what happens.
Really? So what you're saying is the grant that was made, and I don't know if you represented the
I did
prior
represent
owners.
the prior application.
You did?
Yeah.
So you walked
No,
out
no,
of the
but I
house,
wanna
you walked
talk-
out of the
no,
office
there's-
here saying, oh my God, they granted it, but they basically confiscated some value?
No, let me just finish if I can, okay? There is a provision that if the application of the zoning regulations to the property operates not so that you have statutory hardship, which means you're basically denied any reasonable use of your property.
Right.
It's almost like a taking without compensation.
Right.
That's the standard that the Supreme Court has set as what you need to find in order to justify a variance, okay?
Right.
So, then there is another case called Culinary Institute that says that if the application of the zoning regulations is so confiscatory that it denies, the application here, so let me just go with it, okay, if I can.
Hang on a second, let me just make a comment here. Gary, I think the argument would be this, that, and I'm not trying to shoehorn into an argument, but under your logic, we couldn't approve any second-story addition on any site that we had previously granted a variance, right?
We're very reluctant to do that. We don't necessarily always allow people to go straight up.
We don't necessarily always allow
Absolutely.
it, right? But
They have to demonstrate.
But if someone comes in with an application and we determine that it's the minimum adjustment, that doesn't mean that that's the only adjustment that can ever be made to that property, right? You would argue that it is.
You know, in certain cases, you have to demonstrate, I think, changes that have occurred to justify something more. This was 4 months ago. Obviously, I have a problem with it. It was 4 months ago, the application came in. Otherwise, there's no end to what you can do.
But in the reverse logic, then, every application that comes in has to ask for the maximum use of the property that they could
I think most
possibly.
people do, But,
I don't think that
but
they
there's
do.
a lot of case law that says the personal preference of the owner does not justify the variance.
This
They're
is-
also seeking a variance for a pool, so it's a little bit more than increasing the mass.
No, it's
Yeah, so
increasing
we're
the
at-
non-conforming use of the property
Right.
in several
We have-
different ways.
There's
I
two
agree with you.
components. The building a fifth bedroom falls within the envelope that was previously approved. Is that
Including the
something-
volume or not volume?
We're not creating any increased volume.
And that's the orange hash.
That's the hatch.
Right, so I would argue, if that's true, if that doesn't increase you're not increasing the roof, it is the volume that was approved in 2000,
Yep.
earlier this year.
Yep.
Then I would say, even though it's a slightly increased use because it's a fifth bedroom, I might say that's okay under the prior application.
But the bonus room.
But
The bonus room and the
changes the
pool,
mass.
the bonus room and the pool are, in my mind, increasing the non-conforming use.
Well, I would say that the bonus room is a logical outcome of having a fifth bedroom, and that it's, no, let me just go. And I understand you're talking about case law that says that you need a hardship to justify the change.
Right.
It's the same hardship that we had before, that this would have been approved previously. And the fact that, and there are, as Mike has pointed out, numerous applications where you add expansion over existing footprint so long as you're not decreasing the setbacks.
I think the newer case law on this issue argues against this.
All right, so
That
let me just-
use, the pink use, which I think is your bonus room.
Okay, so, yeah,
So-
that is the bonus.
So can we just see what the bonus room is?
The bonus room is here.
But I mean,
Oh,
give us the presentation on the bonus room. How high are we going?
Okay, so-
What is it?
So the easiest thing is for me to look at the architectural plans that you have here, which I'll take you through. This is the foundation, no change. This is the first floor. The addition is one HVAC compressor, which is further away from the club property line than the existing HVAC. We're a half foot further. This is 26.5, this is 27 feet from the property line. We need to be 40 under the regulations. We're adding one HVAC compressor. This is the former living room that was two-story atrium space. So now what you have, this is within the building envelope that was
So
previously.
you can talk about the building envelope, but it's building envelope and volume.
Right, but that's.
And
volume.
I say, yeah, and volume. Okay, so that's all. This is the new bonus room,
Okay.
which is over the former one-story garage. Now,
Where does the setback line run through that pink?
Uh,
Right down the middle of it?
if you look at the survey,
Yeah, right
Right in the center,
Right down the center of it?
yeah.
it's right down the center of it.
Okay.
So we're as of right as to a portion of it, but because of the configuration that existed previously with the driveway turnaround here and the septic fields here, we really can't pull the garage closer. But about half of the bonus room is as of right.
Mhm.
So we're talking about a portion of it, and I don't know the area of it, but this portion is the area which...
For argument's sake, we'll call it half.
Yeah, volume. We meet the setback here entirely, in terms of the previously approved setback. There's no change otherwise. So it's essentially, this portion is closer to the club. Now, the club had looked for years at a two-story structure, very much like this. Let me just keep going if I can, to finish up the architecture thing. This is the new, and by the way, I'm not taking any credit for gable roof lines that are in here that were previously approved. This is down to essentially the eaves of the former one-story garage. So even if to get this, we've lifted the roof line a bit. But that roof line extended about here.
How much have you lifted the roof line?
I don't know exactly, the architect is not here, but I assume the roof line's been lifted.
Do you
5
have,
feet.
do you have a copy of the previously approved plan?
I don't, yeah, I probably have it in my, I don't know if I have it in my file.
So that's the same design as before, but lifted, he's saying. That's what I remember, I don't remember.
I want to take a look at it. We're going to see it right now. Woody, did you have some comments while we're waiting?
That just might have been a hip move, I'm not sure. The only thing I was going to offer while we were struggling a bit was that there is a buildable area in which pool and other additional volumes could be located without a variance. So they're here because they're outside now.
And this house has never, actually, what's happened is the regulations increased over time. It was built in 1925 or so. It was built in essentially this location.
You took it down.
Pardon? And then we tore it down.
Right.
When we got a variance to provide to renovate that house. And then we thought we were renovating it, and we were told it really needed to be replaced, so we came in with a revised application, essentially moving the house 7 feet further north, and we're now in a situation where this, the volume that we're talking about is lifting up here, and it's half of that. I don't have a plan for the prior.
Wilder, has this septic system been installed?
It's an existing system.
They had to do all these deep test holes for an existing system?
The deep test holes were done, all I know is Doug DeVesta looked at it. He said that there's adequate septic leaching field now, and David Knopf has signed off on a 5-bedroom system for this, provided we add a new, a larger tank and a holding tank as well, septic tank. Because we aren't sized for a 5-bedroom.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
And I think this is constructive. I honestly think we should continue this. A couple of things that would be helpful. If we could see the existing approved overlaid on what you're proposing, so we can get our heads around what the additional ask is.
Yep.
I'd like I hate to rely on town council because it slows everything down. I'd like some basis of an argument as to why we can approve this.
Yep.
Because as Gary points out, if we 3 months ago have approved the minimum adjustment necessary, how can we turn around and say this is the minimum adjustment necessary? So what's the basis for that? And I don't know the answer to that. That's why I'm asking it. And then confirmation that this is the only site where this septic can go, that we can't move this at all, and we're stuck with this septic location. And I think with those 3 things, we'd be in a much better position to make a decision on this, right?
Sure.
I just don't see, Gary, to your point, I don't see how you
Yeah, I mean, look, that elevation is helpful to me because it's not, you're not proposing to go to the main house elevation.
No.
So that's helpful.
And
I think your suggestion's right because the pool is troubling, just to lay it all out there because I'm pretty transparent. The pool is troubling because that's the same thing. It is a additional, as Barb pointed out, it's an additional non-conforming use of the property that wasn't presented, wasn't decided when we decided what the board decided what the minimal adjustment necessary.
And I think if you look at it from the perspective of would we have approved it if you had brought it to us the first time, I think the answer is probably no.
Not in that
I don't know
location.
about that, given the history of variances that I've researched.
Yeah,
where
I
you've
mean,
done
to be
that.
honest, there's so much buildable area here. Again, I don't know why we approved this at all. But the foundation's in now, and the grant was made, so.
Well, I mean, you start with.
I don't want to go through this because it is
I have
there.
to tell you, it started with that area in the north is essentially unusable, but for the septic at this point. And
The
you had a
neighbors-
prior house, and we also have
There's
all the
only two.
neighbors signed off on this. They think it's an appropriate
Yeah, I
plan.
think zoning decisions live beyond current neighbors, as you know.
I absolutely understand that.
Now, but I want to, is this, when you drive in here, I'm trying to remember this, the parking lot for Tokenie Club is like over here, right? So this,
Parking lot for Tokenique is here, and this is Ned Goodenough's property, and he also owns on this side.
So this
is
house
Long Island
overlooks the
Center.
parking lot?
This overlooks the parking lot.
Okay, all right.
So-
That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure. There's no
And this
house
is the
being
land that overlooks
impacted.
the parking lot that we're talking about.
Okay,
And we have taken all the equipment that is proposed, the pool equipment and otherwise, and located it on the club side so that it's not impacting neighbors.
and the club has no problem with
And the
this?
club is a letter of support, which
Okay.
we're happy to submit. Matter of fact, we might as well. Anyway.
If I'm remembering this right, a big reason we didn't relocate the house is because of that existing septic system.
Yes,
So now if we're talking about redoing that or making changes to that,
the Castles are just gonna keep building the house that they're doing, I suspect. I mean, what they really
No, that's-
would like to do
The
here.
question was to confirm that it's in.
Right.
Yeah.
it was going to work, we weren't going to touch it. That was a big reason why we approved these
That's-
variances.
And then we're just confirming that.
Okay, we're confirming that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry? Well, the original approval for the renovation of the old house was we were going to maintain the first floor deck, and then the deck got
But
destroyed.
once you take, I mean, I'll play the role of Vic here, once you take down the walls and you
Yeah, but,
take down the house, then kind of that whole concept of that's where the house was disappears.
well, the
But-
hardship to justify the variance that we're operating under now was that we really couldn't go north because of the
Okay,
setback.
that's, I understand.
And I think
And
also.
the driveway access, because it's very steep.
No, I
We
get
go from
it.
elevation 5 to elevation
steep.
23.
It's been a steep night.
It's very steep.
A lot of topography.
And the access really has to come off here.
No, I get it.
where
Look,
it's always been,
I-
which then forces the house.
I actually don't want to relitigate yeah, but what I'm saying, in fact, the opposite, I'm saying we have that variance. What someone needs to justify to me is, what happened between 4 months ago and today?
That
Other
justifies.
than change of owner and their personal desires to justify increased non-conforming use on this property.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, and I think that's what we've asked for, in just verification of the septic, and that's really the only spot it can be on the property, and,
greater detail about the volume increase.
Greater
That's in the
detail on
setback.
the volume.
Very helpful.
That encroaches in the setback.
correct, 100%.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing that, I think Wilder, you mentioned you had research on other applications, pool issue, variances or something. You might want to submit whatever you have and let the board have that prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that.
When are we doing that one then?
May
May
15th.
15th.
May 15th. I won't be here May 15th, so good luck to everyone. That's a joke, I'll be here May 15th.
You may not want me to be here May 15th.
Yeah, see if we can select that. Okay, that's my suggestion. If you want to close it tonight,
I have
happy
no
to have it
interest in
closed.
closing it,
Okay.
given the colloquy we've had,
Yeah,
and I appreciate your suggestion.
I think that's good, and let's, so we'll go ahead and continue that until May 15th.
Excuse me.
Sure. In the meantime, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard in this application? Anyone?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Does that get us to the end of the agenda? That was 6th. 7th we did first, so we are at the end of the agenda. We can go ahead and start. Woody, I didn't ask you if you had any comments on that last application, but you can reserve till they're coming back, so.
That's what I needed to.
Okay.
I think we can leave that door open now if you, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start with application 4, 2019.
I think the only option is not to grant a deck at all, and then they're limited on outdoor space. But in looking at it, I don't see any other optimal location to put outdoor space, and I've seen that property. There's nothing, there's no way to build a stone terrace or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, my only struggle is that really?
A hardship.
A hardship or
I
a
know.
minimum adjustment?
I don't
it's
think
a
it is,
hardship.
actually. I don't.
Hardship?
A hardship is
I
The
think the
hardship is
land,
the lot
the
size,
land,
the land,
is-
yeah.
The land is the hardship.
yeah.
topography, is that typically a hardship?
I mean, the hardship has to go
Is
with
it-
the land,
Yeah.
so here we're saying the land is the hardship.
Yep, no, I think the hardship exists. The question is whether this is the minimum adjustment necessary. Like, are they deprived of their substantial use and justice of their property, or whatever the, Kevin had that one down perfectly, but it's a substantial use of their property by not being able to have a deck.
So, well,
Well,
in
they
this,
need to get out, to get out from that, and, because there's stairs down.
Well, right, if they were asking for a stairway, though, that would be a lot different than a
right,
deck.
so I think in this case, by the way, you've got a burdened lot, smaller, right, it's undersized. They're building a house that's not a overly large house, but it is entirely, despite the smaller size of the lot, it's entirely within the buildable area.
Love it.
So which is great, right?
It's great.
That's what they,
They did what they're supposed to do.
right. So their one ask in order to live in this house is to have a reasonable sized deck that is in the location of the house where the land drops off precipitously. And if that land were flat, they would build a 1-foot deck or a patio. But it's actually tied to that location of the land.
Yes.
And that land
the
is,
land.
is the hardship.
And there's no mass to it. It's a flat deck.
Right.
And I agree, I thought they were very conservative in their design. I like that they incorporated the 2-car garage for off-street
Right,
parking.
what I would say is that shall not be converted into a screen porch with
Ah.
a roof and screening, right?
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
that's the, you know,
Stipulation going forward, okay.
right, that I wouldn't permit to be done on this.
Right.
Because then that's a bigger
I
structure.
mean, they could probably have an awning for sun protection or
I don't
umbrellas
thi-
or
no,
something, maybe?
No additional.
No, anything,
No,
okay.
Nothing built, no
I
built
think
coverage,
this is
yeah.
I think this
A
is,
simple deck,
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
What about railings and that kind of thing?
Well, it's
Railing
got
to
to
You'd
code.
have
Got
to, yeah.
railing.
no railings, no.
You'd
Railing-
have to, because
railing
for safety reasons,
right,
but,
railing-
okay,
Railing to code.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. In the rock outcrop, I think impacts it as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a natural rock formation there that makes it, frustrates the ability to build there. What do you sounded like you had some input.
I was just admiring Mr. Green's veteranship.
Yeah,
We had a stipulation we've used for a lot of years,
yeah.
not recently, but with decks and things that are in the setback, that they not be enlarged horizontally or vertically, and not have any structures over top of them, like trellises or anything else.
Yeah,
Furniture, patio thing, maybe an umbrella, sure,
yeah.
but just no structural additions to it.
We could require a smaller deck, correct? I mean, that would be one thing we could do, is say this deck is too large. I think this fits with,
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
I think
I think it's fine, I'm just asking the question.
Woody, what about the space below the deck? Do we do anything there? Is that not to be enclosed, not to be used for, can they use it for storage? And
No, because that is then, that's a good point, that should be added, because then that's basically building a storage shed in the
Right, in the setback
setback.
area.
And that's
So no storage, no nothing under
no
there?
enclosure, not enclosed.
They're not allowed to put some lattice up to make it
Trellising or,
look
yeah,
better?
yeah.
Well,
That's awful.
I don't know. What do you,
That is one of the things we've had in the STIP, not to have lattice, plastic, or anything else that encloses, like a front porch, the setback, we use that many times.
Right.
You can have a simple railing, like.
I think
said
the
before.
idea
No,
is,
but-
I think the idea is it's supposed to replicate the patio.
right, we're
And
trying to make
nothing
it as
else.
patio-esque as possible.
Right.
So Woody, what we were talking about though is the space underneath the deck and not enclosing that at all. You know, they can do decorative columns or something like that, but.
They could put plantings.
Right, that's fine, because that's, right.
Okay. I get comfortable with that, Jude.
Yeah, so I'll make I think we found the hardship. Yeah, I think as far as the size of the lot, it was a previously non-conforming housing lot.
The terrain.
They're reducing the nonconformities by bringing everything into the buildable area. They're not asking for any bulk variances outside of the deck. I think the deck is the minimal adjustment necessary, given the topography, the rock outcroppings. With the stipulations that we discussed, I move to approve the application.
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, the next
Raymond?
was Raymond Street. This is, it's a really, really, really tough lot. And we spent a lot. For those of you that weren't sitting on this in the first application, we spent
Now, was it always a individual lot that was just never built on?
Never built on.
and so,
And it was subdivided and zoned as a building lot?
yeah. It was before, I think it was all done before FEMA cared.
Yeah.
So the island is part of the lot, but you can't use it, so you can,
The lot is huge, the river is part of the lot.
right,
Like, it's
You'll have to build a bridge to the
Right.
island?
There's some real odd things
Maybe
out
with
there.
EPC
on-
approval. What's up here is interesting, there's a mean high water line, actually, along this river. It's tidal up to a certain point. And by law, that's their property. You can't own below the mean high water line.
Right.
So that is part of the complication, where one of their variances is a rear setback from that mean high water
Right.
river edge, rather than across the island to the far side on the Norwalk side.
talk about a hardship, yeah.
Definitely a glitch with that.
So the lot, absolutely, the lot taking into account the topography, the river, and the island is certainly unique.
In the topography.
And, right,
the
topography,
slope.
and, you know,
Yeah,
a number of hardship elements, I think, are met here.
and when Steve took us through what the approvals were to get to this point, now I have a better perspective on why this didn't go forward. I had
Much
no
better
idea.
perspective, and they've been required to have, I mean, some of the concerns and issues that the neighbors raised, required to go to Department of Public Works. They've been required to go to the police department. They've been required to get bonding for, the performance bonding for the work that they're to perform. So I think all of that gives me a comfort level that
I agree.
each of the boards in the town has absolutely done their job to protect the neighbors. There's certainly a hardship here in both the nature of the lot, the topography, to deny them to build anything would be a taking.
That's the taking, I agree.
Right? And so we've got to allow them to build something. The question is this the minimum adjustment? And I think it is. I
And the
think
board found it before.
Board
so-
found it.
the
Yeah.
board found it before. It was a very long process, and I thank Gary for dragging that record in, because we can then use that to support our findings here tonight. But I see no issue. Height variance really bothers me, especially in a site like this where you've got something close to the road. The closer to the road you are, the higher it feels, right? It's like looking up at a skyscraper. But because of this lot,
It's a mathematical calculation that throws you there
Yeah.
because of the steep drop off.
And you're looking down, any neighbor issues, I mean, the two on either side obviously would have concern about height, and they did voice that. But looking down on it from the other, it's a
They're still gonna be
natural,
higher, yeah.
it's not high when you factor that in, the topography.
when we did, Ruth Ann, I think you sat on
I
this
was,
last.
yeah.
We actually had them put a flag in a tree at the peak height.
Okay, that's a
So,
great
so
idea.
we can see
Yeah, you got
it in relation to the neighbors, because the neighbors are all complaining about height,
Yeah.
and we wanted to see, and it was in line, if not lower than the
And that
neighbors.
ended it, putting those little flags.
So,
I think this is super conservative, I think the design is smart.
I like it.
I think they've jumped through hoop after hoop to get this thing done.
Woody,
I say,
Woody, a couple of procedural things. We have a list of stipulations already prepared and approved for this.
Yeah.
Can I incorporate those by reference, or do I have to go through them?
No, I drag them in. You can have him incorporate in the minutes or the resolution.
Okay. I would incorporate those stipulations into the minutes, and
And the
Well,
deci-
and
the
into the
deci-
decision.
Into the decision.
Yeah.
and
And nothing's changed, right? He was clear that
Nothing's
no
changed.
design change, no height change.
Nothing's changed.
with that, I would make a motion to approve with the stipulations previously applied to this application.
I'll second that.
I don't think we need anything additional. The only thing I want to ask you, Woody, is there a way we can give them guidance on starting of the construction or an extended, I mean, this is clearly a complicated project, it's clearly a complicated site. Can we give
They just have to start in 6 months.
But I mean, can we extend that to a year so they don't end up in this situation again?
I think the permit is 6 months.
Is it a 6-month
Well, it's
permit?
an automatic 6-month allowance for them to start actual construction with a building permit. So
So they'd have to apply for an extension and
they'd
it
have
goes
to apply
beyond,
for a new
Okay,
extension.
all right.
which that's
Which I
fine.
think,
Sounds like they're,
We've reopened the application, so that gives them more
yeah,
padding.
so
certainly don't have a river issue with winter melt and all the
Yeah.
freeze and thaw things. that
Timing is
they
good.
have.
So I think
Everything should be.
with shepherding them through this process, you know, if they run into a situation where they find themselves, you know, tied up because of other agencies' approvals or what it might be, if, you know, if we could get that information from them, you know, encourage them to share that with us so we know what's going on, so we can, you know, we can make better decisions around grants of extensions or not. Because I think we struggled with that the last time. It was sort of like they kind of started, they didn't start.
I think it's the right season for starting this project, where they were maybe hoping to start it a little earlier last year, so then they got into the winter. It would have been awful
Yeah.
in winter.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I made a motion with the stipulations previously applied. Do I have a second?
Gary seconded.
Garen seconded. All in favor? Okay, you're approved. Congratulations.
Sigh of
Have a good
relief.
night.
I can't wait to see it.
I can't
I
either. It
used
looks
to live on that
fantastic.
street.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, guys, we're still
Sorry.
on the record. Still on the record. Woody, do we have any,
Yeah, a couple things. March 20
can we let Judy go first?
Yes, Judy can start breaking down.
Thank you very much, Judy. Thanks for your help tonight. Okay, Ruth Ann, we're still on the agenda. So you got a couple things, Woody?
Yes, we have Mike and Gary here tonight, who were present on March 20.
And we took a look
I
at
did hear
those.
from Jeff and Chuck that the minutes were okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Clear it out.
Bear with me.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I hope you got a chance to look at Raymond Heights. They requested amendment to their approved plan.
Yeah, so what I can't tell from this approved plan is, my only question is these dormers,
Yeah.
and that's increased volume, where is the setback line? Is that increased? I don't know this property.
I do, but
This is during the era that I wasn't active.
the dormers are in the setbacks, in the front setbacks, right?
So they're in the, so here we have them, again, we approved something and now they're coming for increased volume inside the setback, right? That's what you said? This is in the.
Woody, what's the story on this? Why are we looking at this as,
It's a request to amend the plans for
Not a prayer.
shed dormers out of the, you can see in the photograph, a very steep pitched addition that they're building.
Yeah, so like the
And they
square window
designed
to
it-
the round window, that's one thing, but here,
oh,
Yeah.
it's.
So we couldn't as staff allow that. If they were
Right.
changing round window to square, okay.
that's okay, right?
But adding volume in the setback, no.
That's the problem.
The other issue was the front chimney was gonna be extended up with existing bricks just being enlarged up.
Yep.
They decided to change it to a box shape, and at one point it was gonna be a little larger.
You know what, this
It's gonna be
street,
wood framed, and so a slight change to the chimney, more big change.
Is this another Raymond Heights?
yeah, this is Raymond
This
Heights.
is, this is the
so
little
tight.
road.
We're not, we.
So the problem is
No,
the
we
volume.
can't, Woody, we can't do this by, I mean, Raymond
agree.
Heights is such a small,
Well, they're involved in the project now, there's not a big addition that we approved. It's just they wanna amend the plans and tweak the chimney and add these dormers.
When did we approve this?
November,
Not too long.
ish, right? Or maybe earlier in the year. But in any event, the problem is, given my position in the earlier application, they're asking for more volume in that setback. And I just need them to tell us
what changed?
what happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
Woody.
we found out that you actually can't stand up there because of the pitch of the, whatever.
Well, to get to that, we'd have to just say,
They need to,
have to reapply and have a new.
Correct.
yeah, I don't, you know, we struggle with these when people want, you know, minor changes, and the minor changes, I think, square it around, fine. The taper of the chimney probably doesn't bother me, but,
I agree with
but
that.
at the end of the day, where they're putting 3 new dormers that look at a neighbor's house that has no opportunity to make a statement about it, and
Well,
they,
actually, just so you know, in this case, the neighbors to that side did submit an okay.
Yeah,
scenic
but-
plan.
I don't know.
I think both
What do you
houses to the left. have
I find it
submitted
hard to
something.
do.
I just think there needs to be something on the
It's
record.
different.
And they're coming out towards the front more?
No, it's basically over
Are they-
top of the previous roof line, that steep pitch.
Oh,
They wanna
okay.
Tweak up.
So
kick
where's
up.
the, all I need is, I can't do this because I don't have the site plan. Where is this on the site plan?
Setback.
Where's the setback line? It's the
I
same
don't
basic
think we have
question,
that.
like, how much volume are you actually adding in
Right.
in a non-conforming location?
Right.
It's hard for me to tell.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't think we have that here.
I don't know.
Um,
And they want to move the front door? No, they were moving the front door previously.
I think the door is, all the other features of the project are the same.
It's nice to see it's all framed out for the dormers.
Well, they left openings in there so they
Yes,
could
they
do
did.
it. Yeah, they left.
This
I
is
know, how
right,
quickly can they get here?
this is right in the middle of the project. Can we do
Well, May
a,
15 would be,
can we do a special meeting?
well, that's about it. Well, to have a hearing, we'd have to set it up with a new legal notice and publish that anyway, so we have a few weeks preparation.
Do you think the setback line is here somewhere?
I don't remember.
Do you have the old application?
I don't think I do, but I can get it.
The, what zoning, underlying zoning is here, like Fifth Acre? Or-
I don't know.
That's what I don't know.
We don't
I
have,
don't know.
we don't have a site plan.
What's the hardship they are claiming?
I don't know what it was to begin with,
So for
so.
the dormers.
Nothing. This is just
Nothing. Cosmetic.
just a revision.
Yeah.
I find it really hard to approve. I hate to
I'd
do
like
it.
to see the height of that roof compared to the neighbors immediately, you know what I mean?
Well, we've already approved the height of that roof.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so high. It looks
Side
high, I
yard.
mean, it could be wrong.
The house is 8.3 from the left side property line,
Wow.
15 feet is the minimum. So we're 6.7 feet into the setback space
On that side.
from
So-
that
How many
outside
feet?
wall of the house. Where these dormers are is stepped in a bit, I think.
Well, can they just step them into a conforming location?
Probably, well,
How-
Why-
I'm not sure. It might
What
be-
does that do
might
to
be
the
very
room
small and only
sizes?
way up high.
Yeah, but what did you say? It's 15 in lieu of what?
8.3 in lieu of 15.
15. So that's,
So that's side of the house where these
what's that math?
But that impacts the
about
room on the
5,
second
7 feet?
floor.
Yeah.
6.7 feet into the setback space.
So, I mean, that could, I mean, I don't know the.
What is the
I'm guessing.
underlying zoning? Is it Fifth Acre?
It's, no, it's the half acre zone.
But none of those
It's a
houses are on a
15-foot
half.
side yard setback.
I mean, aren't they all
I'll tell you-
these long, narrow, skinny things?
Well, most of them,
Yeah.
yeah. There was also a front setback regarding the chimney, but like I said, this
The chimney doesn't bother me.
alteration seems
Chimney doesn't bother me.
like it'll fit okay, and maybe better. The brick was pretty loud.
If this is on that front plane, they're not coming out any further? Or is that stoop now coming out further into the setback? It looks like it is. This is why a site plan would be super helpful. Right side elevation. Isn't that it there? Yeah, it's coming out. Here, yeah, Woody, it's extending further from the property.
Oh, here we go.
That's the right side, so we're looking, there's
I
the chimney.
I was curious
And there's
about
the new front stoop.
this peak compared
Yeah,
to,
it's
like,
more or
what are
less
we
a-
looking at
More or
on
less
the
a
street?
landing.
The new
Is that as of right?
I know.
Below.
You talk about a tight little neighborhood.
Right.
This is it.
To my knowledge, the only changes from your previous approval. Not the porch, not the landing, not the other stuff.
But even
I don't
the,
have a survey.
but even the roof, Woody, looks like it's stepped out.
This guy's hilarious.
Compared to the previous design?
Well, I don't know what the previous design was, but why would you have a bump out there?
Well, look to the other tab.
I liked it, I was like, all right, do whatever you want.
You know, they're taking out the front door.
Well, they're moving the front door
basically
around.
Sliding
I don't think he lives there.
a little trim line across there.
But I don't know where
I
that's,
think this whole section bumps out
yes,
though.
yeah, they're wrapping it around, but I don't know where the setback lines are.
I think it's on it.
I can tell you what the front setback is. They basically approved 25.9 instead of 40 feet for the front setback.
But if
Yeah.
you,
It's close to the road.
does it line up with the house next door?
Pretty close, yeah.
So the front will line up, it's not as if this is sticking out in the road.
So-
Okay,
But
From
they're
this
coming out
issue,
further.
What's the distance between that and that?
That's my point, is why can't they just tuck,
Is that,
I don't know,
so we're only talking about the height problem?
I don't know.
How much of the dormer is a problem?
I don't know.
How much of the front stoop is a problem?
I don't know. That's why, I mean, the only other suggestion, Woody, would be to have them prepare a site plan and submit it.
Wait, do
And
we have something in 2 weeks?
Yeah, we do.
If they
What's
give
in
us
2
more,
weeks?
we have a meeting on whatever
Yes.
2 weeks from today is.
Our meeting on the
24th or something?
24th, that's correct.
all right, so we
So
can,
why don't
if they
they,
could
we
get us
ask
a
them for
site plan.
additional information by the 24th,
Clarification.
to see if we can do it administratively then?
Did you make that for the birthday?
Yeah, we can see just where the setback lines fall compared to this
We
increase.
were running out from the meeting.
okay. Woody, I know you had zoning Board of Appeals powers and duties.
We'll continue that to,
Oh, this is just for information, this is the,
yeah, what's included in your packets was from that conference that was at
That
Wesleyan.
you and I were both.
hey, guys,
No, it's here though.
Sorry.
There was one here also.
did you see this?
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is this a result of the meeting we had with the attorney, or is this just?
No, this was part of
No.
a seminar.
This was a
Okay.
seminar that none of us could attend.
Right.
But I thought the materials would be good. I didn't have a chance to look through it, so have you looked at it?
I started to look through it.
Um,
It's kind of heavy reading.
I'll take a look at it. It looks like it's got a lot of Connecticut
It's kind
General.
of heavy.
I've gone 3 times with Jeremy and it,
But what we might,
couldn't do it this year.
Tough, yeah, right.
A little
maybe what we do
too
is we read through it and then we'll kind of give some
Yeah, I think you
ideas.
wanted to see if we could get some information from that.
What are you thinking, like, information that we adjust our rules and regulations based on
Well,
state
It's really
recommendations?
standards of how we apply and answer certain
Okay.
questions.
It's little things like Gary's point, like you came into us with an application that required the minimum adjustment.
Yeah.
Now you want, 3 months later, you want
Another
more.
minimum
So
adjustment.
this may give some color on
That
how to
was a
handle the
very good
situation.
point, Gary. That was an excellent
Well
point.
done,
Well, I
Gary.
mean, disappointment in the use of a property can hardly constitute practical difficulty.
Right.
Yeah.
But let-
I'm disappointed they didn't have the pool.
He just
Right.
went to page 3.
But you know what? But let's say though, I mean, just for argument's sake, let's say the Castlos built that house.
I don't think we should do this
Yeah,
now.
we're still
No.
on that.
Oh, is it?
We're
are
still
we
on.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
Continue,
So,
continue.
It's a good-
We continue that, Woody,
Judy was packing up.
sorry guys, we're keeping packages for no
Yep.
and
Costello.
Caslow. Okay.
Please.
With that, being nothing further on the agenda, Woody?
Can I pass something along for you?
Sure.
Is it food?
Potential policy that we've kind of scratched around with for a while,
Okay.
but regarding violations.
Have a good night.
Resolving violations. It's sort of a practice that we've had for a while, and I thought it'd be good to write up something. It basically says when we get an application and we have encroachments, unpermitted structures, zoning violations, that part of our duty is to remedy those things, and a little bit of why.
Okay.
So it's a possible policy.
Can I, yeah, no, I didn't. Can I get a copy?
Yeah, and you get mine also.
I don't think you have to adopt it tonight, but it happens to be relevant. So.
It does happen to be relevant to some of the hearings tonight.
Let's read it.
Why don't we do this? I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn, and I'm gonna put this in with my packet of materials to take home to review. And
I will second the motion to adjourn.
okay, all in favor? Okay, we are adjourned, Channel 79. Thank you very much for your efforts tonight.